You were taught salt becomes dangerous only when it raises blood pressure over time. That story feels comforting because normal readings create a false sense of kidney safety. But your kidneys follow older rules, written long before supermarkets and processed meals existed. Here is the unsettling truth most people never hear, explained clearly in everyday language. Excess sodium can injure kidney tissue even when your blood pressure stays completely normal. Salt does not require hypertension to begin its quiet biological assault inside delicate nephrons. To understand why, you must first meet osmotic pressure, the hidden physics of fluids. When sodium rises in blood, water moves out of cells to dilute that concentration. This protects the bloodstream briefly, but leaves cells subtly dehydrated from the inside again. You can drink plenty of water and still experience microscopic cellular dehydration quietly each day. Kidney cells are vulnerable because they constantly balance fluids, electrolytes, and filtration demands daily. Each nephron becomes a frontline worker exposed to relentless osmotic stress every single day. But sodium is not merely seasoning. It is an electrolyte commanding electrical signals throughout your body. Inside cells, sodium and potassium gradients power nerve impulses and muscle contractions reliably today. This stability depends on balance, not abundance, and certainly not constant sodium overflow everywhere. When sodium floods the system, the Na plus K plus ATP ACE pump works overtime to restore order again. Cells misread excess sodium as emergency messages that never fully resolve or quiet down. Energy drains, membranes strain, and repair programs fall behind inside without announcing themselves loudly. But here is where it gets strange. Dehydration signals trigger vasopressin, tightening kidney tubules forcefully. Your body conserves water, yet sodium remains high, so the cycle repeats with increasing intensity. And here comes the part that feels unfairly dangerous for careful, health-minded adults today. Kidney tissue has few internal pain sensors, so damage rarely produces early warning discomfort. Problems can advance silently while you still feel fine, productive, and completely in control. This is why salt behaves like a hidden assassin, attacking structure before symptoms appear. It disrupts cellular hydration, electrical signaling, and microscopic filtration architecture simultaneously over weeks, quietly. This is only the opening scene, before the real pressure storm hits your nephrons. If this challenges what you believed, pause and notice your own reactions right now. Press, like if you want evidence-based mechanisms, and comment 1 if you relate today. Think back to the dry thirst after salty meals. No matter how much water you drink, that sensation is not habit or imagination. It is your body responding to osmotic overload. By day 1, excess sodium forces kidneys into emergency filtration mode without your awareness. Each nephron must excrete sodium rapidly to protect overall fluid balance and blood chemistry. To accomplish this, glomerular filtration rate increases beyond normal physiological comfort levels. This phenomenon is called hyperfiltration, and it is not a protective adaptation long-term. Hyperfiltration is the kidney's version of redlining an engine to avoid immediate failure. For short periods, this works, and damage remains invisible to conscious perception. But by days 3 through 7, microscopic blood vessels inside glomeruli begin stretching unnaturally. These capillaries were designed for precision, not constant high-pressure mechanical stress. Repeated pressure thickens vessel walls, reducing flexibility and disrupting delicate filtration architecture. At the same time, sodium retention pulls additional water into circulation, increasing plasma volume subtly. Your face may appear puffy in the morning, especially around eyes and fingers. This is not cosmetic fluid retention. It reflects systemic overload your kidneys cannot resolve quickly. Here comes the invisible danger most people never feel until it becomes irreversible. Kidneys contain almost no internal pain receptors within functional tissue itself. Nephrons can die silently, without pain, swelling, or dramatic warning signals. Clinical nephrology shows symptoms often appear only after 70% function is permanently lost. By day 10, surviving nephrons compensate by working even harder under increasing pressure. This compensation delays symptoms, but accelerates long-term structural damage paradoxically. Salt, therefore, creates a cruel biological illusion of resilience, while destruction continues quietly. You feel fine, productive, and healthy, while filtration units collapse behind the scenes. This is why kidney disease often appears sudden, despite developing slowly over years. The storm does not announce itself with pain, only with progressive microscopic loss. And this storm has only begun, because hormones soon enter the conflict. By the second week, kidneys are no longer fighting alone inside this escalating sodium crisis. Now the endocrine system enters the battlefield, attempting to stabilize chaos through hormonal intervention. At the center stands the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, known simply as RAAS. RAAS evolved to protect survival during dehydration, blood loss, and extreme environmental stress. But excess dietary salt confuses this ancient system in deeply paradoxical ways. High sodium intake suppresses renin initially, signaling abundance rather than scarcity. Yet paradoxically, blood vessels constrict instead of relaxing under persistent sodium overload. This constriction increases pressure inside glomeruli, amplifying mechanical stress on fragile filtration units. Your heart pumps harder against narrowing vessels, while kidneys endure rising internal resistance. This tension manifests subtly as headaches, restless sleep, and unexplained chronic fatigue. These are not lifestyle issues. They are endocrine distress signals spreading systemically. Meanwhile, aldosterone attempts to regulate sodium excretion, but balance becomes increasingly unstable. Electrolytes drift, nerves misfire, and muscles lose efficient signaling precision gradually. This imbalance explains why excess salt often worsens sleep quality, despite physical exhaustion. But the damage does not stop at pressure and hormones alone. Excess sodium also activates immune cells previously quiet within kidney tissue. Macrophages and T cells interpret sodium overload as cellular danger, requiring inflammatory response. This response creates low-grade inflammation that never fully resolves between meals. Inflammation thickens kidney tissue, disrupts signaling, and accelerates scarring processes silently. You do not feel inflammation because it operates below pain thresholds continuously. Yet, inflammation alters how nephrons respond to stress, making recovery increasingly difficult. By days 15 through 20, kidneys operate inside a chemically hostile environment. Pressure, hormones, and inflammation now reinforce each other in destructive feedback loops. This is where temporary overload begins transforming into structural vulnerability. And unless sodium intake changes, the system continues spiraling toward irreversible damage. By the third week, kidneys approach a threshold where compensation begins failing quietly. Surviving nephrons cannot indefinitely shoulder workloads designed for thousands of lost filtration partners. At this stage, microscopic structural damage starts producing measurable biochemical consequences. One early sign is albuminuria, the appearance of protein leaking into urine. Protein should never pass the kidney's filtration barrier under healthy physiological conditions. Excess sodium weakens this barrier by damaging the glomerular basement membrane progressively. The membrane loses selectivity, allowing valuable proteins to escape into urine wastefully. This protein loss is not trivial. It signals structural failure, not temporary dysfunction. Albuminuria predicts future kidney decline more accurately than symptoms or blood pressure readings. Here lies a cruel paradox. Kidneys lose nutrients while still struggling to remove excess sodium. At the same time, another consequence begins forming silently within urinary chemistry. High sodium intake increases calcium excretion through shared renal transport mechanisms. As sodium exits urine, calcium follows unwillingly, increasing crystallization risk. Calcium oxalate crystals begin forming under supersaturated urinary conditions gradually. These crystals can aggregate into kidney stones, causing sudden pain after silent preparation. Stone formation is not random. It reflects long-term electrolyte mismanagement. Many patients experience their first kidney stone without understanding its dietary origin. Salt quietly set the stage weeks earlier by altering mineral balance predictably. Yet here is the nuance most discussions miss entirely. Salt itself is not toxic. It is essential for nerve conduction and fluid balance. The danger emerges from dosage exceeding individual adaptive tolerance consistently. Some kidneys adapt better, others reach failure thresholds earlier for genetic reasons. This variability explains why some people tolerate salt longer before consequences appear. But biology never forgets cumulative exposure, even when symptoms delay expression. By day 30, kidneys remember every osmotic insult endured repeatedly. Damage may not feel dramatic, but architecture has already shifted unfavorably. This is where long-term trajectories begin separating silently. When sodium intake drops, kidneys receive a rare signal they recognize as permission to recover. Within 48 hours, osmotic pressure normalizes, reducing constant cellular dehydration stress gradually. Water shifts back into cells, restoring volume without forcing kidneys into emergency filtration. This alone lowers glomerular pressure, easing mechanical strain across fragile filtration membranes. At the same time, hormonal noise quiets as RAAS signaling begins recalibrating toward baseline stability. Renin release normalizes, vessel tone relaxes, and internal resistance within glomeruli decreases measurably. Sleep often improves first, because electrolyte balance directly influences circadian hormonal communication overnight. Headaches fade, mental clarity returns, and chronic fatigue loses its biochemical driver quietly. This improvement is not placebo. It reflects real physiological unloading inside renal microstructures. Another misunderstood phase emerges here, often called salt withdrawal by frustrated individuals. Food tastes bland, energy dips briefly, and cravings spike during early sodium reduction days. This discomfort is temporary and signals neural adaptation, not nutritional deficiency or danger. Taste receptors resensitize, requiring less sodium to trigger satisfaction over time again. Meanwhile, surviving nephrons redistribute workload more evenly under reduced pressure demands. This redistribution slows scarring processes and preserves remaining filtration capacity longer. Importantly, kidneys cannot regenerate lost nephrons, but they can protect what remains. Lower sodium intake reduces protein leakage by stabilizing the glomerular filtration barrier. Albuminuria often decreases when osmotic stress and inflammation subside together. Inflammatory signaling retreats as immune cells disengage from constant sodium-induced activation. Fibrotic progression slows, buying time before irreversible structural decline accelerates. This repair window is not dramatic, but it is biologically meaningful and time-sensitive. Recovery depends on consistency, not perfection or extreme dietary restriction. Small reductions maintained daily outperform heroic short-term interventions that rebound quickly. Here lies a quiet truth most health advice overlooks entirely. The body heals best when pressure stops, not when effort intensifies relentlessly. Your kidneys respond to relief with gratitude, not punishment or resentment. This sets the stage for long-term protection, if caution guides the next steps. Before concluding, biology requires honesty about limits, because not every kidney responds safely to change. For individuals with stage 3 kidney disease or worse, sodium reduction must be medically supervised. Rapid shifts in salt and water can destabilize potassium balance, risking dangerous cardiac arrhythmias. In vulnerable patients, well-intended dietary changes may provoke emergencies rather than healing. This is not fear-mongering. It is respect for fragile electrical systems governing heart rhythm. People with gout face another often overlooked risk during high-sodium dietary patterns. Salt-driven dehydration concentrates uric acid, increasing the likelihood of painful inflammatory flares. These attacks feel sudden, but biochemical preparation occurred quietly during weeks of sodium overload. Medical guidance transforms risk into strategy, preventing unnecessary suffering through informed adjustments. Now comes the most misunderstood truth about salt and kidney health. Salt is not evil. It is essential for nerve signaling, muscle contraction, and fluid regulation. The danger lies not in sodium itself, but in chronic excess without compensatory balance. A smarter approach focuses on the sodium to potassium ratio, not absolute elimination. Potassium-rich foods encourage natural sodium excretion through gentle physiological diuretic mechanisms. This process reduces pressure without shocking renal systems accustomed to gradual adaptation. Fruits, vegetables, and whole foods restore mineral balance without invoking aggressive restriction. This is not dietary ideology. It is evolutionary chemistry applied thoughtfully. Your kidneys evolved alongside potassium-rich environments, not modern sodium-dense food landscapes. Small, consistent changes outperform dramatic dietary overhauls that rarely sustain long-term behavior. The body rewards patterns, not perfection or punishment-driven discipline. 30 days of awareness can redirect decades of renal trajectory quietly. You are not fighting your body. You are finally listening to its warnings. Health is not moral virtue, but biological literacy practiced daily. When pressure decreases, systems stabilize, repair resumes, and intelligence reemerges. Your kidneys work silently for you every moment of your life. They ask for moderation, balance, and time, not heroism. Protecting them is not sacrifice, it is stewardship of an ancient survival system.